Hey YouTube, Philly J here from Different Dimension Gaming, coming at you with my Meklord deck profile. So Meklord came out in the 5Ds era, I think is kind of the final boss of the anime, and I believe that the boss monster is based on the guy that played the deck. I think his name was Aporia? But if I'm wrong, someone in the comments please correct me. And this is a very anti-synchro based strategy. So a lot of the cards involve like using your opponent's synchro monsters to boost up your own stuff or to take them to protect your own stuff, using them as like equip spells to like keep them from being destroyed by your opponent's card effects or by battle. It's a very cool deck. It is a machine deck, so you can do a weird like Earth machine build, but you'd end up playing 60 cards and it wouldn't be that consistent. And at that point, you're really just playing 60 card Earth machine anyways. So we're playing it pure, and we've got some really cool tech in here to keep us going with our combos. They won't be super long combos in the video later this week, but they're interesting combos that I have a lot of fun playing. With that being said, let's get started. So to kick things off, our boss monster we're going to play one of, the Meklord Astro Mechanical. So cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned from your hand by sending 3 Meklord monsters from your hand to the graveyard, and cannot be special summoned by other ways. So, this is Yu-Gi-Oh! We cheat stuff out. Once per turn, you can target one synchro monster your opponent controls, equip that target to this card, and this card gains attack equal to the combined attack of all synchros equipped to it. And it starts at 4,000, so it can get really big really fast. And then during your standby phase, you can send one equip from this card to the graveyard and inflict that much damage to your opponent, but you cannot conduct your battle phase that turn. So one of the cool ways with this card is if your opponent's got some kind of like attack prevention or anything, you can just start sending this equipped synchros just to start burning your opponent out of life. And it inflicts damage equal to the attack of a synchro. And the next card we're going to talk about actually is one of the most cracked cards I've ever read in the game. So Meklord Astro Dragon Triskelion is genuinely just a custom card. So it cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned from your hand by banishing 3 Meklord monsters with different names from your graveyard. So a much easier summoning condition, and we can't cheat this one out in this deck. We can cheat out this one though. Once per turn, this is a soft once per turn effect. When this card declares an attack, you may look at your opponent's extra deck and equip one monster from it to this card. This card gains attack equal to the combined attack of all those equipped monsters. And while this monster is equipped with a synchro monster, it can conduct 3 attacks each battle phase. So this is pretty insane. This can get over just about everything. Especially if you're playing against a synchro-based deck, you can swing in with this, look at your opponent's extra deck, take one of their key combo pieces or their boss monster, equip it to this, and suddenly you've got a 6,000 attack that can attack 3 times. Very, very powerful card. And it's surprisingly easy to get out in this deck. And then for the last of your high-level monsters, we are playing the 1 Meklord Astro Dragon Asterisk. And this one can only be special summoned by controlling 3 or more Meklord monsters. So again, if you can discard 3 to get this guy out, and then banish 3 to get this guy out, you're almost there for this guy. You can normally summon 1 more, and then you can get this guy out for free. And then you can target any number of Meklord monsters you control, except this card. Send those targets to the graveyard, and if you do, this card's attack becomes the combined original attack of all the monsters sent by this effect. And then each time a synchro monster is special summoned, inflict 1,000 damage to the summoning player. So again, punishing your opponent for synchro summoning is very much a strategy of this deck. Now, this doesn't mean that it's only good against synchros, it just means that it's really good against synchros. Because being able to look at your opponent's extra deck gives you knowledge about what your opponent is playing if they've kind of had a bad opening turn. And then, you control 3, you discard 3, you banish 3. They've all got that 3 base around them because they all work in tandem with each other. Now for your 3-ofs, we're going to play 3 copies of Meklord Army Deployer Obligado, 3 Meklord Army of Weisel, 3 Meklord Army of Skeel, and then 2 Meklord Army of Granel. Now this is your whole rank 4 package right here. And all of these gain effects depending on what ones you have out. So Obligado, during your main phase, you can activate this effect. Destroy this card, and if you do, special summon 2 Meklord Army monsters from your deck in defense position, except for itself. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn except for machines. And then if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can activate this effect. During the end phase of this turn, you can inflict 100 damage to your opponent for each Meklord monster you control. And you can only use each effect once per turn. So it pops itself to summon any 2 of these guys. And then in the end phase, you can also burn your opponent. And if that's time in the round, congratulations, you win the game. So Weisel, Skeel, and Granel all have different effects. Weisel gains 100 attack for each Meklord on the field except for itself. And once per turn, when another Meklord monster you control declares an attack on a defense position monster your opponent controls, you can activate this effect. During that battle, it inflicts piercing battle damage to your opponent. So again, getting this up to 6,000-7,000 attack, and then 3 attacks with piercing, you've won the game. Skeel gains 200 attack for each Meklord except for itself. And if this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a Meklord Army monster from your deck, and that is not a once per turn. This one can keep cycling itself, and it can summon itself off of being destroyed. And finally, Granel gains 100 attack for each Meklord other than itself. And if this is normal special summon, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls. Its attack is halved until the end of the turn. So again, really, really cool rank 4 package. And because Obligado does not negate effects, you can summon these 2 and gain more extenders off of that, unless you're going for a rank 4 play, which you actually do quite a bit in this deck. Yeah, so that's it for your level 4s. We are playing a lot of level 1s as well, because this deck really does revolve around level 1s. The best card in your deck is Meklord Nucleus Infinity Core. This card is beyond good in this deck. His card is absolutely insane in this deck. So, the first time this card would be destroyed by battle, it is not destroyed. And then you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add a Meklord spell trap from your deck to your hand. If this card is destroyed by card effect, you can special summon 1 Meklord Emperor monster from your hand or deck with a different attribute than the ones you currently control, ignoring its summoning conditions. And for the rest of the turn, you can only declare an attack with 1 monster. So we are playing some Meklord Emperors, and I don't know why this works. Someone can maybe explain to me why this works. You can summon Astromechanical off of Infinity Core. I don't know if there was an errata that I missed somewhere, but every time I've used Infinity Core in testing, I've been able to summon Astromechanical. So if someone can explain to me how that works, I would really appreciate it. I don't know how it works, but it works. Again, one of the best cards in your deck, and we have so many ways to get access to it that it is really consistently one of the cards you're going to get in your hand. And then for your Emperors, we're playing 1 Meklord Emperor Weisel Synchro Absorption, 1 Emperor Granule, 1 Emperor Weisel, and 1 Emperor Skeel. Now you can definitely cut down on these. The two I say you have to play are these two. You can for sure cut these two if you want to play something else instead. So Synchro Absorption cannot be normal summoned, must be special summoned by its own effect. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can send one face-up Meklord monster you control to the graveyard and special summon this card from your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn. And then if this card is special summoned, you can target one monster your opponent controls that cannot attack for the rest of the turn. And then when a card or effect is activated that would destroy a card on the field, you can tribute this card to negate the effect and destroy it. Emperor Granule can special summon itself when a card you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, and its attack becomes equal to half of your life points. And then once per turn, you can target a synchro monster your opponent controls. You can equip it to this card, and it will also gain that monster's attack on top of its already half of your life points. So a level 1 with 4,000 attack is pretty good, I think. But that's just me. Emperor Weisel has the same summoning condition as Granule. If a card you control is destroyed, you can special summon it by its own effect. And then once per turn, when your opponent activates a spell card, you can negate the activation and destroy it. It's important to know that this has the same effect as well, as you can target an opponent's synchro and equip it to it, and it will also gain the attack of that monster. And then Emperor Skeel is pretty much the same as Weisel in sort of every effect, except that it negates a trap instead of a spell. And it's important to know that these two have a condition that says they are the only monster that you control that can attack. That's really important to know. So while these are really good negates, and while you can have both out, they will both lock you into only attacking with themselves, which means if you have both out, you cannot attack. But again, you've got ways to work around certain things like that. You can always link them off. You can always use them for, fodder for one of your bigger guys, and you're just having a negate while having two huge bodies is not always a bad thing. So that's it for your monster count. We're playing pure Meklords. Now the spells are kind of where this deck shines, because this deck has got some pretty nutty spells in it. For starters, our field spell that we're playing is Fortissimo, the Mobile Fortress. And this card, as a soft once per turn, you can special summon one Meklord army monster from your hand, which is really, really good, especially if you open up one of these and a couple of these and a bunch of your level 4s. You can start spamming the board with your Meklords, and they will all keep boosting themselves because of their individual effects. And really good card. It's an easy 3-of because it is a free body on your field. Then we're going to play 3 copies of Meklord Assembly. This card is really, really good, because so when it's activated, you can add any Meklord monster from your deck to your hand. And then once per turn, you can discard a card to target a monster you control and destroy it. And that's really cool because, when your new Infinity Core is summoned, it adds a Meklord spell drop from deck to hand, and your Meklord Assembly adds a monster, so A adds B, and then B adds A. Super, super useful for consistency, and then because this destroys a card, you can pop your Infinity Core and get out one of your big Meklord army Emperor monsters, and especially if you have another one in hand, you can also summon that one from your hand as well. And then if a face-up Meklord monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target one other face-up spell trap on the field and destroy it. So yeah, if your opponent somehow gets over one of your huge Meklords, you can pop a card that they control at the same time, just to kind of keep it an even playing field. Very, very useful spell card in the deck. And then just for some consistency tools, I'm playing 3 copies of Pre-Raise Map and 3 copies of Jack in the Hand. So both of these cards involve your level 1 monsters, or more specifically, they want to get you access to your Infinity Core. So Pre-Raise Map, At the start of your main phase 1, add one monster with 0 attack from your deck to your hand, but have your life points. After adding it to your hand, you cannot, for the rest of the turn, after this card was activated, activate the added monster's effects until you normal summon that monster. So it's a really weirdly worded card that says, add this and then normal summon it, because you can't activate the effects until you normal summon it. And then Jack in the Hand, reveal 3 level 1 monsters with different names from your deck. Your opponent adds one to their hand, and then you add one to your hand, and the other one goes back in your deck. And one of the cool things about Jack in the Hand is that we do play a lot of level 1s, so your opponent does get their pick first. So if your opponent knows what they're doing, they'll always take your Infinity Core, but that gives you access to something like your Granule or your Weisel to negate something your opponent controls, or just to give yourself a really big body to make your opponent question their decision. I played against a hero player on the weekend, and he ended up taking the Emperor Weisel and gave me access to the Infinity Core, and I ended up, sorry, that's I throw cards, I ended up OTKing him on that turn. And then for the last of our spells, we're playing the one for one and the Called by the Grave. And 1 for 1, we really want access to our Infinity Core. We don't need it to play our deck, but it really, really helps. And the Called by the Grave just to keep your opponent off of some kind of interruption, because we do lose to a couple hand traps pretty quickly. And that's it for the spells. And we are on a pretty low trap count. We're playing 2 different traps, but we're playing 4 traps total. We're playing Meklord, Astro, the Eradicator, and 3 copies of Dimensional Barrier. Now again, we are kind of playing a slower deck unless you open really well, so Barrier is one of those cards that will really put your opponent off of being able to do stuff. Now the Eradicator, however, is quite a crazy card. Target 3 Meklord monsters with different names in your graveyard. Either add them to your hand or special summon them, ignoring their summoning conditions. Until the end of your next turn, after this card is activated, you cannot special summon monsters except machine monsters. And if you control a Meklord Astro monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard, destroy 1 synchro monster your opponent controls, and if you do inflict damage to your opponent equal to the original attack, you can only use each effect once per turn. Now it does need to target exactly 3, but if you can get exactly these 3 engraved, this card is absolutely absurd. Because it ignores summoning conditions, you can get out your 3 largest bodies, and it doesn't negate their effects, it just locks you into machines. But we're pretty much only playing machines anyways, or at least our combo pieces are only machines. And then the fact that it can also banish itself from the graveyard to destroy a card your opponent controls and burn them is also a really cool second effect, and you can use both effects in the same turn. This is definitely a card that I have considered bumping up to 2, maybe even 3, but you don't really want it to clog up your hand. So I'm playing 1 because with the bodies you get back, once it comes back to your turn, you've pretty much got everything you need to destroy your opponent anyways. And that is it for the main deck. So for this deck, we don't use the extra deck a lot, but when we do use it, it's very, very useful. So we're going to play 1 copy of Gear Gigant X, 1 copy of Baguska, 1 copy of Exciton Knight, and 1 copy of Dugaris. So these are your kind of just generic hold the line rank 4s. Gear Gigant X can detach a material to add a machine from your deck to your hand. Baguska in defense position pretty much puts your opponent under skill drain, and then on your turn you can put it back to attack position to give yourself a different effect. Exciton Knight if your opponent controls more cards than you do on field and in the hand. And then you can detach a material to destroy all other cards on the field, but your opponent takes no damage for the rest of that turn. And you can only use this effect during your main phase or your opponent's battle phase. And then finally, Dugaras can detach 2 materials to activate one of the following effects. You can skip your next draw phase, but draw 2 cards, and then discard 1 card. You can skip your next main phase and special summon 1 monster from your graveyard in defense position, or skip your next battle phase and double the attack of 1 monster you control until the end of this turn. Now that third effect says double the attack, not the current or original attack. So any one of these becomes absolutely ginormous depending on what effect you want to use. So that's your generic rank 4 pool. The only exception is Gear Gigan X. It needs 2 machines to activate its effect. Or to summon it, sorry. And then for the other rank 4s, we're playing the Utopia package. We're playing 1 Utopia, 1 Utopia Ray, and 1 Utopia Lightning. Again, really easy to summon, two rank 4s, slap this one on this one, and then slap this one on this one. And then when you use the Lightning's effect, you can just detach your 2 Meklords from underneath it, and now you've got stuff in your graveyard to use for your Astro Dragon. And then Utopia the Lightning in your battle phase can increase its attack by 2,500, and your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to its attack or effect activation. And you're not going to summon these very often, but when you do, you've pretty much won the game. We are also playing the rank 10 train package. Now we're only playing 3 level 10s in the deck. So again, you're not going to go into this very often, so if you want to play something else, by all means do so. This is by no means a mandatory card to have in your deck. So I've talked about these a lot on the channel, but just to run through their effects. Gustav Max can detach a material to inflict 2,000 damage to your opponent. Super Dora can detach a material to make 1 card on your field unaffected by cards or effects. And Dreadnought Libe can detach a material to gain 2,000 attack permanently and can attack up to a number of times equal to its Exes materials plus 1. So again, you can slap this on top of either one of these and then detach a material, make it 6,000 permanently, and it can attack at least 2 times depending on how many overlay units you have. Again, not mandatory, but it's an engine that I really, really like playing in this deck because when it comes up, it's a game-winning engine. And finally, for links, we're playing 1 Platinum Gadget, 1 Cleafort Genius, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and the Unchained Abomination. Now, your Meklord Emperors that summon themselves from your hand are not specifically just summon themselves when your opponent destroys a card by card effect. It's only when a card is destroyed, which makes your Unchained Abomination very, very powerful in this deck because it gives you access to all of your Emperors by itself. So running through our line here, Platinum Gadget needs 2 machines, cannot be used as link material the turn that it is link summoned, but once per turn you can special summon a level 4 or lower machine monster from your hand. And then if it is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can summon a gadget from your deck. So if you want to play some gadgets, by all means throw them in. You can swap those out for maybe your 2 of your Emperors that you don't want to play. Cleafort Genius also needs 2 machine monsters. This link summon card is unaffected by spells and traps and the activated effects of other link monsters. Once per turn, you can target 1 face-up card on each player's field, except for itself. Both those cards have effects negated until the end of the turn. And when 2 or more monsters summon at the same time to zones that this card points to, you can add a level 5 or higher machine monster from your deck to your hand. So if you've got this out, you can use it with something like your Obligado because it summons them both to your field at the same time. It lets you search one of your level 10 monsters from your deck to your hand. And then Nightmare Phoenix just needs 2 monsters with different names. When it's link summoned, you can discard a card to destroy a spell trap on the field. And then if it's co-linked, when you activate the effect, you can draw a card. Nightmare Unicorn has the same effect, except it sends a monster from field back to the deck. And again, if it's co-linked, when you activate the effect, you can draw a card. And Unchained Abomination needs 2 or more monsters, including a link monster. If a card on the field is destroyed by card effect, except by this card, you can destroy another card on the field. And then when another card is destroyed by battle, you can destroy a card on the field. And then in the end phase, you can target a card on the field and destroy it. This card is 3 destructions in 1 on top of being a 3000 attack monster. So it's really good in our deck because you can pop your own stuff to then further push forward your own cards or effects, especially if you want something like your Infinity Core to get popped so you can summon one of your huge guys from your deck. But with that being said, that is the deck profile. Let us know what you think down below. Let us know if you think of any improvements that we can make to our deck. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to join our Discord server. Big thanks to Deep Winter AI for our thumbnails, and we'll see you next time.